Today we're going to do some testing with the Current Monitor Pro. I've got this car kind of half prepped already, so what I did is disconnected the battery and then reconnected it, just the ground side, positive side still hooked up, and then reconnected it with just a jumper lead, and then prepped the car for draw testing. What I mean by that is we cycled the key on and off, and then opened and closed the door. Took the keys out of the vehicle. This door is open because we need access to the battery. If I needed more access, I might have the other doors open as well. But I have the latches latched so that the car thinks the door is shut. That's very important when we're doing draw testing, that the car is in its natural state. And that varies by model and make. So, anytime you're doing this kind of testing, just look at service information so you know what you're doing and what it's going to take to get the vehicle in the mode. So a lot of times they'll list the specifications, the accepted amount of draw, and things like that. So this is what we saw on the key on cycle. This turns the headlights and everything on, so we're well over 40 amps, and that's why we're using the jumper there instead of the Current Monitor Pro. And I just have the amp clamp on there so you can see what we're looking at. So I now have that hooked up, and we're waiting for the car to go to sleep, and you can see it did that here. And it doesn't take very long, only about, I don't know, maybe 150 seconds to go to sleep. This car goes to sleep pretty quickly. So now we're going to hook up the Current Monitor Pro and compare that to the amp clamp readings so you can see the difference. Not everybody has an amp clamp like this. This one's pretty nice because it's got big enough jaws that you can get around these big cables. And I'm going to show you why I'd prefer to use the Current Monitor Pro. And looking through the information on this, the 20 amp rating here is for several minutes. So this key on cycle here that's rolling off my screen may or may not be enough to blow that fuse. That peaked over 45 amps. In the manual for the Current Monitor Pro, it gives you the time specs for that fuse. Even though it's only a 15 amp fuse, it takes current over time to burn the fuse. So make sure you read the manual when you buy this tool so you understand how that fuse can blow and how resistant it is to slightly higher current than you would expect. That's probably the coolest thing about that, is where, like with a meter, you hit 10 amps, you're blowing that fuse 95% of the time, and that's somebody accidentally hitting a door lock, somebody coming by to talk to you, and they just grab the door and unlatch a door real quick or something like that. That might blow your fuse. Chances are that won't happen with the Current Monitor Pro. I'm not saying it won't, absolutely. Depends on the current load of the circuit. But you're going to have less headache using this because it's got a little more threshold than a standard meter. But with that being said, let's get to it. The vehicle's plenty asleep. So we're going to grab the Current Monitor Pro. Bring it in here. We're just going to set it. Let's set it over here by our amp clamp for now. I'm going to turn it on. And then make sure I have the positive lead here. So this is the one that is going to go to the battery voltage, which is going to be this side, or the car side. And then this one is the negative here. This is going to go to the negative on the battery. And I did hook it up backwards already just to see what would happen. And all it does is it inverts your readout on the other side. So if you mess it up, you'll know what you did and you can fix it. So we're going to go ahead and clamp that on. Sorry about my fingers. And then we're going to come over here and clamp that onto the battery cable. And then we're going to remove our jumper. That. So now we got that all hooked up. I don't have the alarm or the threshold set yet. I just have it on. So now that it's on like this, if we have our leads hooked up here, we will get our current reading across there. without having the alarms or anything on. I just want to make that clear that you can use it just like you would an amp clamp. You hook it up, hook your scope leads or your meter leads up to it, and get your readout, your output. But in this case, I want to see what we got here. So we know it's over 100 milliamps. We know we're over 200 milliamps. And we know we're under 300 milliamps. So let's hook it up and see what we have for a live reading. So I've got a scope lead here hooked up. I've just got stackable leads on the end of it. Hooked up to the Current Monitor Pro leads. Throw that jumper lead on the ground. And we're going to hook that up to the scope here. Yeah. Set you down for a second. Alright, so we have that hooked up to channel 1. And we have our leads here that we're going to hook up to the Current Monitor Pro. And this will give us an output of 1 millivolt per milliamp. Now we're going to go over here to our screen. We're going to set our channel 1 scope up properly and bring that down to, that's probably good. That gives us about 2 volts. And you can see that we are a little over 250 milliamps. And I've got the RMS setting up here so you can see where we're at. And you can see our amp clamp doesn't exactly match. So let's zero our amp clamp quick. So we're going to go ahead and unclip that. We're going to come here. And really we're pretty close to zero. So let's put that back on. Now this vehicle is at 250 milliamps right now, so I would fully expect this to drain the battery in a couple of days at 250 milliamps, which is a problem. So eventually it will go to sleep. You know, I thought these cars went to sleep relatively quickly, so hopefully we can catch that on video as it drops completely off. But I want to show you what happens if something wakes up. So right now we have this on our 300 milliamp warning, and 300 milliamps is cool because typically when I see computers waking up, it's in that 300 to 400 milliamp range. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this down and open this. Oh man, this is a budget car. We'll have to do something different. Glove box light, right? Our alarm is going off. And you can see when that glove box light came on, we have much higher draw on our circuit now. Let's make these match so it's not confusing. Here we go. Yeah, so those should match more or less. And you can see our draw. So now I'm going to shut that. Oh, look at that. Light timed out. Draw went away. Everything dropped down here quite a little ways. And you see channel 1 is almost to zero. We're just very, very little. So you can see we're pulling basically no current. But look at channel 2. Look at that amp clamp. So we're at 250 milliamps on that amp clamp. Well, that's not great, right? Let's see where we're at on zero. The amp clamp's off. Still at 250-ish milliamps. Well, that's the problem with using amp clamps. When you're trying to use them at the very, very low end of their scale, you get what's called drift, which can be frustrating, can throw you for a loop, can run you down a rabbit hole if you're not ready for it. So you need to be aware when you're using an amp clamp, you may experience drift. Let's correct that quick. So we're just gonna, this one you just use the thumb wheel here. Some of them have a button that'll just auto set them back to 0. But let's get pretty close to 0 here. You can see we're reasonably close to 0, at least a heck of a lot closer than 200 milliamps. So then we're just gonna clamp that back over. And now you can see we're relatively close to where we want to be. And let's zoom in on time. So now we got 5 seconds across the screen, so we can calculate our RMS quickly. And you can see our actual accurate reading is 7 milliamps. I don't know if you can see that, get it to focus. 7 milliamps across there. Our RMS reading with our amp clamp is 36 milliamps. And again, now that we're zoomed in a little bit, let's see if we can get that a little closer, right? So let's get it to 0. See how close we can get. You be careful with RMS readings because they don't read negative most of the time. So like, see, watch when we pull that down, we're still getting a positive RMS reading. You gotta watch out for that. Now obviously on a meter, it's probably going to, if we can get it under 6, I'll be really happy. There we go. With a meter, it will know whether you're at negative potential or positive potential, but now you can see we're still very, very, very accurate with the shunt inside the Current Monitor Pro. And you can see that's the only thing, all of the current for the vehicle is going through the Current Monitor Pro right now. So let's create a draw and see what happens again. I don't know if we'll be able to do the glove compartment. Oh yeah. So you heard it come on when I opened it, and it shut off when I shut it. You can't see it on the screen because I forgot to set my buffer bigger. There we go, we got 100 seconds on there now. But you heard the alarm. So that's what's cool is I can hook this up in the morning, get the vehicle completely prepped. When I'm doing battery draw testing and chasing, I get the vehicle for a day or two. I'm going to set it up in a way that makes it easy for me to test, which ensures the vehicle's going to sleep. I might lock out all the doors like this, whatever I need to do to make it easy for me to test and ensure the vehicle should at least go into a dormant state. And then once I do, I'm going to verify the car's asleep with my jumper wire hooked up. I'm going to hook this up in line. I'm going to set my alarm for whatever threshold I want. And now we know we can set this threshold. We're at 100 milliamps here. You can see the vehicle's still awake at over 100 milliamps. So I'm going to set it at 200. Now we're at 200 milliamps. And eventually that's going to time out and go away. So once I know the vehicle is asleep and doing everything and I can't find a draw, this is the most important thing why I like this tool and I want to use it all the time, is not only can I monitor it easily and accurately and not worry about drift, when it's hooked up like this and I can't find a draw. Say I'm hour and 10 minutes in, so I got everything hooked up, I set it up, put my jumper wire in line, come over and checked it a few times with an amp clamp, or I just set this up, right? So I know the vehicle's not dormant right now. So even if I don't have the amp clamp on, I know we're over 100 amps. I'm at 200 here. So I expect the vehicle to go dormant. So say I walk away, go do whatever I got to do for 20 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes, wait for the vehicle to go to sleep. And I come over here and now we got to wait, but I don't want to wait. So we're going to ignore that for now. So say I have it set on 100 milliamp setting and the vehicle is dormant and asleep. now what, right? Now I gotta wait for it to act up, or I gotta at least put a reasonable amount of effort into knowing that the vehicle doesn't have a battery draw. So how I'm gonna do that, after I've prepped it, done all the stuff, cycled the key on and off, maybe started and ran the engine with a heavier jumper wire than that little one I have on there, done all the stuff, and it goes to sleep and there's no draw. Well, then I'm going to set this up to monitor it. I'm going to put the alarm set up for wherever I think is appropriate. Right now it's 200 milliamps because it's still awake. But this vehicle will go to sleep within a few minutes. If it, obviously the glove compartment wakes it up. So that's why you have to be so careful when you're doing these. But either way, I'm going to be impatient. I don't want to wait for the car to go back to sleep. Oh, yeah, no, we're still. Where's our RMS reading and stuff's right where we want to be able to see it. But anyway, we're at 100 milliamps there, or over that. So now I've got my alarm set. Reach in. Maybe we can do something different here. Try to move a mirror or something. I don't know if it'll let us. Oh yeah. Did you hear that? So we're moving the mirror. That's enough current to set off the alarm. So say the car wakes up and I'm working on something else. Now I know the car's awake. I can come over and check the current draw. And of course it went away. That's what it looks like when we move the mirror. And we're still over 100 milliamps. So within a few minutes, I would expect the vehicle to go back to sleep. Sometimes that could take 45 minutes to an hour though. So that's why it's nice to just have something monitoring it. And if, say, I don't even want my alarm on, I can just set it like that. So say it's got over a 500 milliamp draw and I don't want to listen to the alarm, I can either hold the button, put it into chase mode like that and the alarm's off, or I just shut it off, turn it back on quick, and now we can monitor it without any of the alarms on. You can see we're still at around 150-ish, almost 200 milliamps. Now eventually the vehicle will go to sleep and we'll have a very, very low current reading there. But again, that can take some time. I'm hoping we can catch it going to sleep again. But I think this car can take 10 minutes to do it. So again, we're going to just set our monitor up. And you can see this is really the annoying part, is waiting. And that's why these cost so much money to track down, right? Nobody's doing this for a standard diagnostic fee very often. I'm just going to open and close the glove box so you can see that again. You can see how that matches the current pretty precisely now that we dialed in our amp clamp. And again, we woke it up again. It could take quite some time for it to go to sleep, but the ones that are the hardest to find are the ones that go to sleep and then wake up an hour later or wake up 2 hours later. Generally speaking, I don't find many that stay awake for more than an hour and a half, and I don't find many that'll wake up 4 hours into testing. Typically, if they're going to wake back up, it's within an hour or two. So that's why I like to do these tests in the morning. I can hook up something like this. I can even hook it up to a data logger on the output side and record all the data using like Picoscope software or the Curian N2, or really any data logger that you have available to you. And I could have this whole process documented, so when the customer complains they have a battery discharging, maybe they're leaving some kind of aftermarket accessory on, and they take that accessory out when they bring the vehicle in for service, so then we never catch the draw because we never see the accessory they're hooking up. I've been in those situations before, and the best thing we can do is provide proof of due diligence and making sure that we know what we're doing, and we can demonstrate that to the customer. And nothing beats that like real live measurements, really accurate measurements where we're not worried about drift on an amp clamp or anything like that. And if we're measuring this for several hours and it does wake up, it's got a nice loud alarm to tell us. But otherwise, this is how I plan to use the tool without the amp clamp. I'm just going to hook it up, after allowing it enough time to go to sleep, and then hook up this, take my lead off, check my current draw. Now, even though we can pass up to 20 amps through the tool, the output side is only going to display about 2 amps of output. So it peaks out at about 2.5 amps or 2.5 volts of output. So you have to remember that you could have substantially more current flowing through the shunt than what you're measuring on this side. And that's again where you might want a high amp clamp or an amp clamp with a big jaw to just confirm that if you're seeing this maxed out and you want to get an actual reading. But I don't know, I'm being impatient. I don't want to wait anymore for that to go to sleep. So I think we're about 22 minutes in, and oh, look at that. And the thing did finally just go to sleep. So if you stuck around in the video for this long and listened to me ramble on and be impatient, here it is finally going to sleep. So now that it's asleep, we can turn our alarm down to the 100 milliamp setting, and now anything happens here, it goes over 100 milliamps, that thing's going to beep at me and let me know. If I have a data logger hooked up, it's going to show up on my data logger too. So now I know absolutely I have nothing to worry about. And say I got other cars to diagnose, I'm not going to leave this scope hooked up, but I can leave the Current Monitor Pro hooked up with full batteries. It's been tested for up to 300 hours of use, so you're probably not going to have that hooked up for 300 hours. But now I can just leave that hooked up just like that, and I can take all of my test equipment and go to another vehicle, go do all the other diags I want while this thing's sitting here monitoring that, and if it wakes up it's going to beep at me. And just to prove that, let's go over and move that mirror again, if the car will let me. Yep, so I'm moving the mirror. It's kind of crazy that it didn't set off the alarm though. Weird. We could be right under the threshold. Huh. Okay, let's open the glove compartment. That's crazy, that mirror didn't set it off. Alright, so we're over 100 milliamps. And we switched it to the 200 milliamp mode, and we know that we are below the 200 milliamp threshold. So the vehicle's probably not asleep. We can check that again by taking our, well, you know what, we're not going to use the amp clamp, right? Because we don't need it. We have something much more accurate, which is a voltage measurement. So let's get our voltage measurement. and you can see we're back to that kind of neutral state, 180-ish milliamps. And the reason that we are seeing that is because the vehicles woke up again because we opened the glove box. So anyway, I hope I got my point across. You guys can see how that all works. When you're doing battery draw testing, especially on modern vehicles, which this is a 20-year-old car and it's still pretty complex, you have to be extremely careful that you're not waking the car up when you're doing these tests. But if you're doing the hard ones where the cars wake up like they have a mind of their own, you can use something like this to track it down and know when the car is waking up. And if you have a timer set, which you should be doing anytime you're doing any of this stuff, you have an idea of how long the vehicle has to sit in order for it to wake back up from the time of connection. So anyway, I hope this helps you. This tool's kind of badass. I'm pretty happy with it. Obviously a lot more accurate, a lot more consistent than an amp clamp. And again, it's hard to get a low amp clamp with such big jaws. So this is the part number for this one, but they are hard to get. It's hard to find ones that have big enough jaws that you can do low current testing like that effectively over a big battery cable. So again, this tool is way handy. Actually, this tool costs less than that amp clamp, so really good value for the money. I'm pretty happy with it. You're going to see it a few more times, especially once I get an actual broken car in here we can do some testing on. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps. We'll do a few more demonstrations with this and a few more parasitic draw testing situations as we go through. If you made it this far in the video, thanks for hanging out, watching it. I know this was a little slower one. It's not quite fast, but you're not zipping through battery draws. So a 27, 28-minute video is pretty short for a real tough battery draw situation. Many times you got a few hours you're going to get into a car, especially one that wakes up randomly. You know, you might get quite a few hours in chasing down the problem. So definitely not for the faint of heart. And tools like this, the Current Monitor Pro, and oscilloscope and data loggers and stuff really make the job a lot more doable and a lot less headache. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great day.